Right, let's flow forward and attack the rules just a little bit more, okay? So, you know that the system is you need sixes as successes. And if you don't happen to roll any sixes, then you failed. And failed doesn't just mean you didn't do it. Failed means that there's some sort of negative effect resulting from you not managing to roll any successes. So as I said before, you can push a roll. And what this means is pushing a roll, you get to re-roll the dice that were not successes and try and actually generate more successes in doing so. But there's an issue. It's very, very different to Mutant, because the way Mutant worked was all the results that weren't ones or sixes, you could only re-roll them. So you'd keep all your ones and sixes, and as soon as you push a roll, all the ones would damage your stat, including any new ones you rolled. Fine, okay. This is different, okay. This is different. What happens here, basically the bad stuff would only happen when you push. In this, remember, you roll all your stress dice as well. More chance of succeeding, but more chance of something bad happening. If you get any ones come up on the stress dice, that's straight into a panic check. So, without pushing even. So, when you push, there are a number of things in this game which add to your stress level. Things like getting attacked by another crew member. If it should happen, immediate one stress. Certain narrative elements in the game, I would say everybody take a stress, gain a stress. Firing a gun on full auto, stress. Pushing a roll immediately, to even attempt to push a roll, to re-roll those non-successes, one stress. So, back to our example before, where we had a character with 2 stress. They'd roll their dice that they needed, and they'd roll their 2 stress dice. Great. Now all the ones that didn't show at this point, if you had any ones come up on those stress dice, you'd be straight into panic. Everything's probably going to fail. Your action's probably going to fail. You're going to revert over to panic stuff, and you're going to start panicking. That's how harsh it is. Okay? Straight away from your first roll before you've pushed. Now, none of those come up as ones in our example. So you're looking at them all. And it's not just, you can re-roll those ones even, okay? That were on your base dice. Base dice don't hurt you as ones. It's the stress dice that hurt you, which is why you need the 2 different colours, okay? So you grab all the ones that, so if you'd have had any ones on your first roll, we wouldn't be talking about pushing, okay? So because we're talking about pushing, you didn't have any ones. So now you can attempt to push. It's very dangerous. So you had the 2 stress dice. You say, all right, I'm going to try and push this roll. It's really important. So you add a stress. So your 2 stress in this goes up to 3. So you take all those ones that weren't sixes, because you could even have some sixes and have succeeded and still want to get a better result still. Especially if it was something like an opposed roll where the GM's keeping it secret until you decide whether you're going to push or not, as to how much you might need. You might be taking someone on. And by the way, when you oppose someone, you need to beat them, not equal them. So there's that issue as well. It's on you. The burden's on you to win. So this push idea, it's another roll of the dice, but you then roll 3 stress instead of the 2 for the pushed roll. So you take them 3 stress dice and you whack them out again and hope that none of those are ones. So look, it comes to a point of rolling dice tends to be a bad, dangerous thing to do. It's something you want to try and limit having to do. It's not like a willy-nilly type dealy-do here. And of course you can only ever push the roll once, unless you've got some sort of talent or thing which tells you areas in which you can push, say, twice or whatever. But again, you know, pushing, it's really, really dangerous. It's more chance of getting the 1 on the stress dice. So that's kind of it on that. And also ammo, I should state here, which is it's mentioned in with the panic. If your action happened to be firing a weapon with a limited magazine, because things usually come with amounts of reloads, then rolling 1 or more 1s on those stress dice, because again only the stress dice have the face hugger on them. 1s on the base dice mean nothing. If you roll 1 on that when firing, then you've just emptied your magazine. I think I'd be more likely to call it, you know, empty magazine. You've panicked and just fired the whole lot off. It's caused a jam. You could swear you've put more in there, but where's the rest of it gone? Just kind of like this was a nearly empty magazine. I'm sure it was full. Kind of, it starts messing with your mind. Anything like that. It doesn't just have to be that you've run out of ammo. Narratively explain it. It's the same point. You basically, you can't fire it anymore. You have to empty the cartridge. You're going to need a new one in. And of course, you know, then you do your panic roll as well. So it's really nasty. It's really harsh. This game. Only have 1 chance to succeed with an action. You usually try to get 1 player to perform it for the group, unless it's something that everybody has to do. Narratively, whatever makes sense. For group roles in this, we tend to have the person with the high, if it's like a group versus a group, kind of like sneak versus observe skill. You're trying to sneak and they're trying to observe you. You take the person with the lowest sneaky sneaks and the person with the highest looky looks, and just have them 2 people roll, and everyone else don't need to. Otherwise, for skill actions that take place, you can have up to 3 people help you, and they'd be using their turn, their action, to help you do it. So you know, they couldn't like help you and then be also doing something at the same time. They're helping you. And for every person helping you, you gain an extra base dice to be able to use. So that's all. It's a good idea to try and stack those things in your favour. In the example of like the sneaky sneaks versus the looky looks, it's a good idea to actually try and get sneaky sneaks against baddie bads, because if you get a sneaky sneak against a baddie bad, then you get a free round of combat against them. Everyone that successfully sneaky snucked. And if they sneaky snuck you, then they get a free upon you chew with their teeth and claws and tails. Or they could be people. People are just as, well, they're not just as bad, but they're pretty bad. People are bad in the universe, and they may attack you because, you know, people. As you well know, people, right? Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. There we go. We've discussed like some of the things. You only have to look at the character sheet to see what all the skills are. I kind of explained where you'd use heavy machinery. It makes sense. Powerful machines, stamina would, you know, running and panting and or having to climb a ladder or something, and can you keep going? Have you got the strength? Close combat, so that's fighting, melee attack. Those are your 3 strength skills. So you'd use your strength plus whatever you got in the skill, that many base dice, your stress amount of dice level, roll it all. 6s succeed. Any ones on the stress dice, you panic. Your agility skills would be mobility, so you're trying to run, you're trying to do something acrobatic, you're trying to movement based. Piloting, which is, you know, just driving a thing or flying a thing, your ability, that's agility as too. And ranged combat, so shooting a ranged weapon, that's agility. And then you've got your wits, which is basically your mind skills, and again it's 3 skills for every stat, so it's just these 12. Plus the 1 skill that every career gets access to. If that's correct, I was mentioning that before. And to be quite honest, I don't know if that's the case here. I don't think it's the case here. No, here they appear to have instead key skills. See, I was talking in old mutant style. I'm not even used to this yet. Key skills. So a roughneck, for example, has 3 key skills: heavy machinery, stamina, and close combat. So what that actually means is that they can put more skills into that when they're starting their character. I believe that's how it kind of looks. But of course, that's how the scope of you cinematic players needing to worry about anyway, right? Of course it is. So your wits skills, back to the wits skills, yeah? Observation, so, you know, that's the looky look. If you need to spot something or see if someone's going to try and sneaky snuck you. Because you don't want a xenomorph sneaky snucking. Comtech, so being able to interface with a computer, use it, type, program an android, get on a mainframe, use some sort of advanced technology, try and figure out how to actually use Roll20. Any of that is a Comtech's role. Also, actually, I should say that successes after the first let you perform stunts. So the first one is just confirms your success. Any further 6s you score on a skill check, then there's a number of stunts you can perform to do it even better. So in things like combat, you could chuck those extra ones into just extra pure damage, or like disarm someone, or like swap initiative with them, and these kind of things. And if you want to do any of that stuff, I advise you to actually look at the book, because the skills pages start from page 64, and it goes through all the skills and it's all the suggested stunts, unless you could think of one that you could put to your GM. But it's a good idea for you players to have access to these stunts, because it's really on you to decide. You've got to look out for it for yourself. So yeah, wits, survival is the final wits skill, which is like knowing how to survive out in the wild, that kind of Bear Grylls kind of knowledge. How are you going to get water out of this weird plant, and what will this weather do, and what does it mean, and it's red sky at night, is that good or bad, and that's kind of hazards and flora, fauna, and all these kind of things. Then you've got the empathy stat skills, and of course there's 3 of them as well. 3 of them. You've got manipulation, where you can attempt to convince someone of something. If you succeed, then they might want something in return, and there are pluses and minuses depending on what your negotiating position is to actually try and manipulate someone, to convince them, to coerce them in some way. You know, who's got the most people on their side? Is what you're asking for easy for them to do, benefit them in some way, or is it dangerous? Did you make a really good argument as a player? Did you think of something? Do you have communication issues? Do you not speak the same language? Are you talking on a radio, shouting at a distance? Have you helped the person previously? Or different things are minuses and pluses there. This kind of thing. So yeah, there's that. There's medical aid, which is pretty darn important as an empathy skill. You can use it in one of 2 ways. You can either try and use it for recovery, where someone's health has dropped to 0, is broken. You can do a medical aid check on them, and they can get back on their feet and recover a number of health points equal to the number of 6s you just rolled. Or you can save a life. The most critical use of medical aid is fallen character who suffered a critical injury, which, you know, you'd have to deal with it in the part talking about critical injuries, but you can find it on page 99, critical injuries. And then finally we have command. And command's pretty amazing, because you can use it sort of in three ways. You can either try and stop panic. So yes, people do panic, but if you've got someone with a good command, they can make a command roll to try and return the person to their senses. You can use command also to give orders. As a slow action, you can do that. So there's slow actions and fast actions. We'll get onto that in another video. But they need to be able to hear you, and you roll for command, and every success you've got, they gain a +1 modification to the roll when carrying out the command you just gave. That doesn't mean that the player's like, oh, I'm going to try pulling the hatch open, and someone then with command's going to come along and say, hey, yeah, I got a really good command, pull that hatch open. Because it's like, well, you're not really being commanded. That's pretty cheesy at that point. You've already decided you're going to do it. So it needs to be, in my opinion, the command giver's idea, and they give the command, and if you follow that command, you're going to get the bonus based on what they just rolled. Otherwise, you know, carry on doing what you were going to do. The other thing to state, which sounds great here, is that officers, those with the class of officer, player characters with the officer career, if they've also got the pull rank talent, they can use command to outright force other PCs and NPCs to do as they say. So that's pretty cool. That's nice. And of course, talents. You've got usually 3 talents, which each class only specifically gets access to. It really gives them some more flavour for that career. But then you've got a bunch of general talents. But of course, in cinematic play, you get loaded what you've got. You'll never gain any more. That's what you have. You don't get to choose them. And hey, there we are. We'll leave it at that. And I'll see you at the next one.